I met Manish Pingle in February of this year, 2013. I was over in Mumbai with my band playing at a blues festival, and just before I went, somebody on my forum, on my website that I run, had asked me about Indian guitar lessons, for playing Indian slide guitar. And I'd heard of Manish and looked him up on the internet and directed this guy at Manish's website because he gives online lessons. And I also, a few days after that, wrote to him and said, I'm going to be in Mumbai, it would be brilliant to meet up with you, and hang out for a day. A few days after the festival, I was there with my wife, and Manish and I contacted each other, and I went to his home for dinner one evening. And I had no idea that I was going to meet somebody that I could play music with, or who I was going to meet. I just knew there was this guy in Mumbai that played great Hindustani slide guitar. And the minute I got into his house, I was just, the two of us were just like, and guitars and slides, and what slide do you use? And oh, in India we use these slides, and all this crazy stuff. And we started playing. I didn't have a guitar with me. Manish had two Mohan Veenas there, which are basically Indian lap steel guitars. And we started playing, and I was playing blues, and he was kind of trying to fit in with that, and we had a great time just sharing music and talking and showing each other techniques and how he plays and how I play. And I left that evening thinking, we've got to find a way of playing together, doing something together, because this guy is really a very special musician. On the 8th of September, Sunday the 8th of September, Manish Pingle and I are holding a workshop at the London Acoustic Guitar Show. I believe it's around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Really, the whole idea of it is for us to do what we did that night at Manish's home, to do it in front of people, which is to get to know each other and to share our differences, play music together, talk about the different techniques, talk about the history, and really for us to play together and enjoy that. And hopefully everybody listening will be in the room will enjoy it too. We're very open to anybody asking questions. It's for the benefit of the people who come to it. So we're very happy to be doing this, and anything anyone wants to come and ask us and talk about Indian slide guitar, my style of slide guitar, how the two fit together, what the differences are, we're very happy to talk about it. On Monday the 9th of September, Manish Pingle and I are doing a concert at the Troubadour Club in Old Brompton Road. We're going to play the two of us, which is going to be blues based, but because Manish and I only met for one evening, and in the insanity of eating food and playing guitars, we play blues together. We have no idea really what actually we can play together till we get together and really do this. So the first set is the two of us exploring each other's music, which I think will be blues based. The second set, Manish will be playing a Hindustani classical set with a tabla player from London, and that will be, he needs to bring that here, and we need to hear him play his own music. I first met Mike Lewis, Fine Resophonic Guitars, in 1992. He's a very good friend of a very close friend of mine, Mark Makin, and we met at a guitar show in Derby. And it was in 1992, and I'd been collecting vintage nationals since the 70s. And I only played vintage national guitars. I was not interested in playing anything else. And back then, there were very few makers of these instruments. National had started making guitars, and there were one or two other makers around. But I only played 1920s and 30s national guitars. I met Mike Lewis at this show in Derby, and I picked up one of his guitars, and it completely threw me and changed my whole opinion of what was and what wasn't a resophonic guitar. I was completely blown away with them, to be truthful, and as I say, up until that point, nobody could touch what they did in the 20s and 30s. But he seems to have taken it. He's taken what they did. Mike also is a collector of vintage nationals, and holds them in very, very high esteem, the highest esteem. And he seems to have been able to take what they did, but take it to a new level without reinventing the wheel. So a fine resophonic guitar is with your eyes shut, you wouldn't know this wasn't an old National Triodium from the 20s. But his workmanship, his attention to detail, and more than anything, the sound that he gets out of them. I remember the first few that I saw that night at the show. I saw a selection of his guitars and was definitely absolutely amazed by them. And then a while later I went down to Paris to see him, and I saw a tricone that he'd made for Eric Clapton. I saw a tricone that he'd made for a friend of his, and I also saw a tricone that he'd made for Louisiana Red. And I have to say that those are among the 3 best resophonic guitars I've ever seen, ever. And believe me, I've seen some resophonic guitars. Absolutely stunning. Nobody can make a resophonic guitar, as far as I'm concerned, the way that he can. And the tone is just to die for that he gets out of these things. This guitar he made for me in 1998. It's a 12 fret based on a National Triodium, 12 fret wood-bodied instrument. The finish is koa. It's a beautiful piece of koa from a very special tree in Hawaii that Mike had a very small amount of to laminate this. These instruments are not solid wood, these are plywood. He makes his own plywood, laminates out of maple and his own combination, and puts the koa on the top. And, there's no question about it. And he made me this in 1998, and I have played this guitar every day since I got it back then. And I also stopped playing vintage nationals on the road and in the studio. I just love playing Mike's guitars. They're just wonderful. A couple of years later, something I'd talked to Mike about for a long time was what Mike makes both wood and metal-bodied national replicas, if you want to call them that. And what I really loved about Mike's work was the wood-bodied instruments that he was making, especially the wood tricones. You know, I'd never seen such a thing. National never made wood tricones, and they're absolutely stunning instruments. And something that I'd kind of had in my mind and talked to him about a few times was, wouldn't it be incredible to make a replica of a square neck national tricone, which has kind of a partly hollow neck, but out of wood? Because what I wanted to get out of an instrument that I wasn't getting out of a 1920s national tricone was the kind of combination between a tricone and a dobro. And this instrument for me I can play it as a dobro, I can play it as a Hawaiian guitar. and I can play it as a blues guitar. It's quite a machine, and I wanted him to make this exactly like a metal one, and it was a very, very difficult thing for him to do. And before he agreed to do it, he said, "I've got to see if I can make this section." This was the part, because this was the difficult thing to do out of wood, that out of pressed metal was quite easy to get. And he called me up one day and he said, "I think I can do it, I think I can do it." And a few months later, in 2001, this instrument turned up, and much like the Koa single cone instrument, I've played this guitar pretty much every day since then, and I can also play it as a round neck, which means you can see it. Yeah, it's a sweet machine. So I've been playing that one every day since it came in 2001. I've got to know Mike pretty well over those years, and I've seen a lot of the instruments that he makes, and you know, I still hold him right up there with the original National Factory and John DePera and his gang building the first instruments in the 20s, and I put Mike's instruments right up there, but with it, in a way, with something a little bit extra, that because he's hand building rather than factory producing, there is just an accuracy and a beauty that just no other instrument has, no other instrument at all. And in fact, a few years ago, probably 10 years ago or so now, I introduced John DePera Jr. to Mike, and he visited his workshop. John DePera Jr. being the son of the inventor of these things. And having met Mike, he said to me, my father should have had Mike as a son, because I never understood guitars at all. And he was also absolutely blown away with his work. So I'm very happy to play these instruments and to know Mike, and yeah, what more can I say? Rock on, Fine Resophonic Guitars!